worked my way into back into consulting, and I always never wanted to really go back into consulting because I felt like it's always that challenge of finding work, etc. I came with a colleague, which basically gave me a hint that there's a company, Escient, getting established, a startup, and a boutique consultancy. It was fantastic that there was opportunity to go for an interview, and I went not with the expectation really to make it or move there. But when I joined the interview, I could just feel there's something different about this company. I just said to myself, and I went through the interview process, that I need to give this a crack because I think this will definitely challenge me in future. And the opportunity of growth is really here because with working with government, private, public sector, that is a huge growth opportunity with different skill sets, and that's what I was looking for. I needed to be challenged again, and that was my whole philosophy around that. I think there's always a risk of joining a startup. I came in with the mindset of understanding really what do they have a really healthy pipeline of work, and that was really key for me because I wanted to start a family. And I think when I went through the interview process, that I met all of these very experienced individuals that came and broke away from another big company, which brought all of that knowledge and connections with them. And that really gave me a bit of comfort that there's a lot of growth opportunity here, and that it's a very solid based company. Leaving a company like BHP was a big challenge, I would say. It's such an amazing company to work for, but in every company, I think at a stage you reach a ceiling where you can't get that growth. But with Escient, and especially in the consulting world, every project's unique. You've got your subject matter experts and your specific skill sets. But in consultancy, you've got a lot of different projects that comes and goes, and a lot of different kind of styles and skills and experience in the organisation that you can work with. And I think that's priceless in the sense of gaining experience on site with new type of projects. I think the opportunities in the Big Four is definitely harder. It's more difficult to get in there. I think with Escient, because they're smaller, they give you there's an opportunity to get into that leadership roles quicker. I think on site with clients, we definitely have a way of just integrating into their team very quickly. They just feel like they're not a consultant. They actually just slot in and they're part of the client's badge and culture, right? So, and I think that's a really amazing thing that Escient consultants have. I think the Escient leadership team is a very unique bunch of people. They really live the values of the company, especially with being selfless. They really care about their employees. They were really selfless in the sense of when you look at the leadership team where they took pay cuts, even the CEO not even earning a salary during that whole period of, especially in Melbourne, for example, 7 months of lockdown. Their mantra was to not get rid of any employees. And that's a big statement, and that's just a testimony to an amazing leadership team that really cares about their people. Escient, I feel more than just a number because I feel valued as an employee, and also I feel like I can really grow at the company. It's also takes away that feeling of being a minion, or where you're just getting bowled out, for example, and making just money for the company. And I think that's really why I enjoy working for Escient.